Hey everybody, I'm sitting here with Randy Howell with the Geek Missile podcast. He's the co-host there. Hey, Randy, how you doing today?
I'm doing well. Thank you, Jase. I appreciate you having me.
Awesome. Well, we're excited to have you. Just a quick tidbit, maybe a teaser here. Randy had a pizza and a suspender sponsorship on his podcast. So we're going to get into how he got those two and those unique sponsors. But first, we got to dive into just what niche or niche are you in? What's your podcast about? Who are you serving with your content?
So, I mean, that's a great question. And I think we're still working on that. I think we're still figuring out who we
Mm-hmm.
are. We have, 17 or so episodes under our belt. And I'll tell you how it started. It was really cool. I was at work and a couple of guys were sitting around and they're very big into the sci-fi and
Sure.
the geek realm. I would just say Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah.
And I started getting inquisitive, and they were very, the lines were drawn as far as what superhero could do what. So I
Sure.
started throwing out questions, right? I was just stirring the pot.
Yeah.
And I was like, who would win in a fight, Darth Vader or Batman? They're like, what do you mean? And as if it was them against me. But then as the conversation started to progress, they would argue amongst themselves. Wait a
Yeah.
minute, Darth Vader has the Force. He
Mm-hmm.
can, choke Batman. And then they started arguing amongst themselves. I found that it's a very passionate topic.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's kind of what started the Geek Missile. It was just kind of, where I wanted to go with it, stir the pot, get people
Yeah.
involved, and have people hear the podcast, but then go, no, that's not right. This would happen and all
Yeah.
that. So that's where it came from.
That's awesome. Just a quick side note. I haven't heard somebody stir the pot, if you will, like you have before. But so I'm a runner. My background is running. I ran on a team, and we had this game while we were run. We called it rock paper anything, and you could literally say anything, and then the game was just to argue what wins. So it was like these, you could have like a cloud versus an elephant and like what's gonna beat what, and then you'd have one judge to win or pick a winner, and it was just like crazy stuff out of their realm that doesn't like ever match like a Batman and
Right.
Darth Vader. So I get that realm of thinking, so that's cool. Okay, so you wanted to stir the pot. How did that lead into a podcast?
So then I once I saw the passion from both sides of it, I was like, there's something to this. I was just
Mm-hmm.
able to recognize it's not uh, before me is five people that have an opinion on it. If
Mm-hmm.
these five people at my work have an opinion, then there's got to be a bunch of other people out there.
Mm-hmm.
And so I grabbed one of the guys, and I'm like, we should do a podcast. We should do this. We'll talk about these things. And I grabbed another guy too, and we got to talking about it. And so none of us had any gear or anything like that. So I went and bought a mixer. I bought some microphones.
Mm-hmm.
I have an actual musical background, so I'm used to mixing and mics, and
Mm.
it was no stranger to me. So I got it all set up in my basement, and I just said, let's just see what happens. Now, these guys are very structured in their life. They're very, well, what's it going to be about? How is it going to work? And I said,
Yeah.
I don't know. We're going to find out. We're just going to talk. I'm going to record it, and we'll see what comes out of it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we did. We had a couple of test runs and to see how it worked, and and it was a lot of stop. Let's do this. Let's say that, and it just formed itself,
Yeah.
right? And then after we kind of had a pattern of how it would work,
Mm-hmm.
we just started recording, and that was that, right? it was
Mm.
it was that simple.
Yeah.
If you listen to all my podcasts from the first one to the last one, you'll hear a progression of the production of it,
Yeah.
the topic, and all that. And I'm not ashamed to start out, with that very first one still up there. It to me was just like, hey, you know what? It is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody has a first date, and it's
Yeah.
it's awkward and it's weird. but I'm okay with just putting it out there because it wasn't, wasn't that bad. I don't think it wasn't the
Yeah,
best, but um, but yeah, and then it just kind of formed itself with different ideas,
sure.
and it became an actual unit. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, you learn by doing. First of all, I mean, you were just like, let's just do it and see what happens. Kind of like when you're playing a board game and you're like, we just got to start. Just start
Right.
the game and it'll make sense.
That's
And
it.
so
Yeah.
many people don't start the game. Um, so once you started recording, started putting them out there. What was like, did you have an expectation of like, I think we'll probably have this many people listen to it? And then
I
did it
yeah.
meet that or did it exceed it or underwhelm you or how did that go?
Well, I had no idea what to expect from it.
Hmm.
I had no clue. I saw that there were other podcasts that were similar to my idea or our idea, and I didn't know what to expect.
Hmm.
So I wanted to put it out there just to see what would happen. And I started getting listeners, but I'm also a very big self promoter. So anytime I'm in a conversation with somebody, um, I've got this, I don't know, I try to be funny, but if we're talking about something at work or
Hmm.
just at the bar hanging out, I'll go, by the way, that joke was brought to you by the Geek Missile podcast, available now on Anchor FM /.
Yeah.
Geek Missile. And so I'll just put that in there and go, are you doing a podcast? I am. Remember I talked to you about it last week? Oh yeah, you said something. But I'm always promoting it, right? Always
Hmm.
telling people. And some of my friends listened to it and went, oh yeah, that's yeah, good for you, man. And some of my friends were like, dude, that was really funny. That's pretty cool. I like it. And
Yeah.
I know that not every product everybody likes,
Hmm.
and that's okay. I don't mind if my friends don't like it, that's
Yeah,
okay. Just something I wanted to do.
for sure.
And, but it was tough. It's tough getting your podcast out there, but you
Hmm.
just promote it like it's your own,
Yeah.
and you just get out there and that's what you talk about.
Hmm.
And there's a difference between doing it the way I did it and just bluntly, picking up the phone, dialing a random number and saying,
Yeah.
"Hey, listen to the podcast." You know,
Are you
so
interested in geeky stuff? You should listen to my
I,
podcast.
I noticed you answered the phone. Hey, I've got a podcast. So, so I try to do it, selectively
Hmm.
how I promote it, but I'm always promoting it on my
Okay.
emails at work. Underneath the signature, I would put engineer and co-host of the Geek Missile podcast, right,
Mm.
and all around good guy, right. So that kind of thing where it's always there somewhere. We'll have
Yeah.
Zoom meetings or Teams, Microsoft Teams meetings, and I always will just slip into the chat part of it, and I'll put a link to whatever I'm doing. Right? If I'm doing a podcast, I just opened. Well, on the 25th, I'm opening up a new coffee shop. It's a website where you can order coffee at northwestblends.com. By the way,
Okay.
for all your
Always
listeners,
promoting.
always promoted. Yeah, I put the link in the chat part
Okay.
of our meeting. And
Yep.
then on the other screen that I have my Google Analytics open, and I just watch to see how many people start going to it. It's kind of
That's
fun,
awesome.
but yeah. So always be promoting, but in a positive way.
Yeah.
Don't be shy. Don't be afraid of what you're doing.
Yeah.
Even if you're not getting the views that you think you should get, that's okay.
Hmm.
It's just the fact that you hit the record button and you're doing it. Now figure out why
Yeah.
you're not getting the listens. Is it your content? Is it the
Hmm.
production? What is it about it? Is it exciting? Is it kind of boring? Would you
Hmm.
listen to it? And you start analyzing it to increase those views. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. And I always look at it this way when it comes to podcasting numbers is like, would you be excited? Say you have 10 downloads and you're like, geez, I only have 10 downloads. But would you spend an hour, go to like a little coffee shop and sit in front of 10 people and get to tell them like whatever you talked about on the podcast, like 10 real people that listen to you? That's actually pretty cool. Like you leave that feeling like, I'm big stuff, 10 people
Right.
just listen to me. So I think when it's just numbers, we forget it's actually people. And then we don't like ever equate that in our head, what that actually means.
You're absolutely right. We get caught up in the downloads and the
Hmm.
numbers and the views, and it's like, you know what? Those will come, but you just got to hit record
Yeah.
and have fun doing what you're doing.
Hmm.
If you're podcasting just for those views, just for those numbers, just for whatever, it seems like it just doesn't happen. You just got to do something that you like and
Yeah.
it's interesting to you. I don't even think you have to love it. I just think you have to like it,
Yeah.
and then those numbers will come because that translates through, who you are and what you do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even if somebody in Cleveland is listening to it, they can tell if you're having fun, if you're having a good time,
Hmm. Yeah. So
and
what were some things that when you were going through, promoting, you're seeing your numbers, you're figuring out what's working and what's not, what were some things that you found out that didn't work that you changed, or that really did work that you leaned into?
um I think towards the end it ended up getting to be more of like, we kind of ran out of some topics. Like, we already covered this, we already talked about that.
Hmm.
It hasn't really changed. What's new? And we kind of started getting into like new movies that were coming out. So
Okay.
we would play the trailer of it and then talk a little bit about it.
Sure.
We would talk about hosting Dungeons and Dragons games. How can we do it virtually and invite
Hmm.
our listeners, have an event? Um, and then we kind of did a would you rather and just talked about that. We'd have a few would you rather questions and we would discuss it back and forth. What superpower would you rather have, flight or invisibility? And just kind of have that conversation and what you could do. And I don't know that necessarily, it was interesting to me,
Hmm.
but I don't think it translated to the listeners as well.
Sure.
So on this new season, probably won't have that back. But it was weird because you have to be able to say to yourself, I like it, but it's not translating. The
Hmm.
listeners aren't saying anything. And you can tell because you're not getting feedback from your listeners, not saying, oh, that's a great topic. I would choose invisibility and this is what I do.
Sure.
So if you're not getting that feedback, if you're not getting that interaction, then well, it's probably not, you know, translating well.
Hmm.
And so move on, find
Yeah.
something different. So that's what, at the end of that season, the first season, I started kind of looking at it and thinking about it. Jason's brought some really cool ideas, and we're going to kind of get more into the alien realm,
Oh,
but we're
nice.
not. Yeah, but it's not like, you know, Area 51. Is it real? Is it, that? It's just kind of more, I think, making fun of aliens and what are they really going to be like, and just,
Sure.
I don't know. It's a work in progress. It always is, right?
Yeah,
So that's what the new one's
for
going to
sure.
be, and we'll see how all that starts to work. We'll see the
Yeah.
numbers, and hopefully it works well with our listeners, and we
Yeah.
can get a bunch of new people.
Yeah. So let's get into the pizza and the suspenders sponsorships. Well, at what point did you decide, hey, let's see if anybody wants to sponsor this? What point in your podcasting, journey did that come up?
So that's a great question. So you kind of got to know who I am. I There's two kinds of people in the world for me, right? There's talkers and there's doers,
Hmm.
right? And I'm a doer. I want to get out there and I want to figure out how this works, how podcasting works. I
Yeah.
see that I have to listen to a commercial every so often. And if I like the podcast, I'll listen to the commercial. How do I get commercials on my podcast? That's
Hmm.
another question. How do I do that? What are these guys doing? So I started breaking it down, listening to different podcasts, and kind of reverse engineered it. And I've listened to some big ones. Like, there's one that I like called the Mike O'Mara Show. Um,
Okay.
Mike O'Mara he's the other half of the Dawn and Mike show out of Virginia. That was a radio show that I used to listen to.
Okay.
They kind of broke up. They both went into podcasting. One's on the West Coast, one's on the East
Oh,
Coast,
nice.
and but they're great guys, right? And they they did their own commercials. So they have like a sponsor, which it was the Select Comfort bed, as a matter of fact.
Oh, okay.
And Mike O'Mara, the main host of the show, would do his own commercials for that. And I'm like, I'm wondering how much money those guys make from that. That's pretty cool. So me not being a radio personality and having the charm that he has and stuff
Mm-hmm.
like that, I just kind of broke it down to something that would work on my level. Once I did, I was like, okay, I can do a simple commercial with some music in the background and kind of fake it. Now, who would sponsor this show? And I reached out to like some D&D folks, people that make the games and stuff
Mm-hmm.
like that, and I didn't hear anything back from them. So I started to figure I was just one of a million people hounding them for money. And so I went local, and I just kind of started knocking on doors. I eat pizza, and I love this place called the Pizza Pipeline. So I was eating pizza, and I was like, I wonder if the owner of this place would sponsor my podcast. So I just knocked on his door, and I just said, hey man, I have a podcast. These are the topics that we kind of cover. I know that's, I'm sure you sell pizza to people that are gamers, that are
Mm-hmm.
movie goers, that are this and that.
Yeah.
And I said, I think I'm reaching your audience. And he goes, okay. And it was exactly what I thought. What's in it for me? How many listeners do you have? Oh, well, I've got 6 podcasts out now, and all 10 people have listened to it. So I don't have a lot of listeners.
Uh-huh.
He goes, well, are they all local? No, no, they're not. I can see from my analytics, just a couple of them are. Okay, so what can you offer me? Because I like your idea. I want to sponsor, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Let's work together. And I was lucky. I found a guy that was like, I
Yeah.
want you to help me and I want to help you. Let's work
Mm-hmm.
together and figure out what we can do. So that didn't end up being um, monetized as far as him cutting me a check.
Yeah.
What it came down to was one pizza a week as we do the podcast. So he's like, I'll give you a pizza, whatever one you want. And I said, better yet, whatever one you want. And we'll talk about that pizza. We'll
Oh,
describe
nice.
it.
Yeah.
We'll advertise it, and talk about it. If you're in the Spokane area, come to the Pizza Pipeline, best pizza ever, right? And
Yeah.
say the slogan and all of that. He goes, deal. So that was my first way to monetize my
Mm-hmm.
podcast. It was
Yeah. Oh, you hit mute. Not sure how that happened.
I got a call.
Oh,
Um,
gotcha.
but it was a learning experience for me, which
Mm-hmm.
was more valuable than, well, not $1 million, but it was still very
Yeah.
good to me. So I appreciated that. It was like, now I know what people want.
Yeah.
So when I do talk to them, this is how I can describe it.
Yeah.
So then,
And that
so
wouldn't
that's
have happened if you wouldn't have, asked. You had to, you just, like you said, you're a doer. You have to go do sometimes. And, your first one might not be like this pizza guy that will want to work with you. Might be more like the Dungeons and Dragons guy that don't respond. But if you keep knocking enough doors, and I think the local route is a good way because people want to support local people. But it's also not as thought about. I think when people think of sponsorships, they think of the big names. They don't think local. But anyways, that's my 2 cents. Go ahead with what you're gonna say next.
I think you're absolutely right. That's exactly what it is. People are thinking, all right, how do I retire my employer? How do I get rid of those guys and do this full time? And that's great if your last name is Rogan. You can do that. But it's my last name's not Rogan, and my podcast doesn't have 5 million hits a day.
Mm-hmm.
It's just very simple,
Mm-hmm.
and it's so, but there is a value to it. You just have to determine what that value is, and oftentimes the value that you decide your podcast is worth is different than the person writing a check.
Mm-hmm.
And so somehow you
100%.
have to come to an agreement. But but don't let that deter you. Let that be a lesson, and let that help you along the way, so that you can say, okay, you know what, my podcast does have cursing in it, and how many companies want to be involved with cursing? There might not be a lot, but there might be
Mm-hmm.
some. They're
Yeah.
okay with it. And so just analyze your podcast,
Mm-hmm.
who your audience is, and how that affects,
Sure.
your sponsor. And yeah, talk to your local pizza guy, or even a bar. If,
Yeah.
if your podcast is local hot spots in the Cincinnati area, you know, you might have 200 people a day that listen to it or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And, or 200 people every 6 months that listen to it, but there is a value to it. And the hot spots that you talk about, that might be worth $25 to mention their nightclub or something.
Mm-hmm.
And you just have to kind of come to that determination. Maybe it's
Yeah.
worth $500. It's up to them.
So
So
so how did the suspender sponsor come about then?
So the suspender one's pretty odd, right? I mean,
Yeah.
that's really weird. So uh, that one is more that one fit, I think, my target audience better.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, my podcast was, well, like probably everybody else's. You see hits from Israel or hits from Turkey or hits
Sure.
from South America. It's international, and so is this website.
Mm-hmm.
So when I got a hold of them, they responded and they were like, "Hey, um, yeah, we don't know much about it, And I'm like, so it's that conversation all over again.
Yeah.
What's in it for me?
Yeah.
Well, now we have 600 views total, and that's 600 people that would be hearing your message. And then you can forecast a little bit ahead now. You've got some data. So if
Yeah.
we have, 200 hits a month, and that's 200 people that are going to hear your ad, you know, every month, and it's going to keep going for years. Once it's on the internet, it doesn't go away.
Mm-hmm.
It stays, and so um, you start to learn how to talk to people as far as what I just said. It's up there. It's not going away. It's not an ad that plays for a week and then
Mm-hmm.
goes away. It's there forever. And so you're going to get all these other listeners as the podcast goes. So this could be exponential for you. And I go, oh, yeah, okay, that works great. And then the question kind of came up, how do I gauge, my return on investment with you?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, what if we put in a code, like GM 10% off or, something like that.
Yeah.
He's like, we can do that. We can do a code. Um, and I actually offered that to the pizza guy too. I was like, hey, what if I put in a code? He just didn't have a way of doing that for
Yeah.
his site. So, but we kind of came down with, there's a code we can put in there and stuff like that. He ended up saying, don't worry about the code. I'll just see an increase because I'm not doing any advertising right now. So anything that comes in that's above and beyond what I normally sell, we'll count that as return on investment. And I'm like, great, that's an awesome way to do it.
Mm-hmm.
How's 250 sound? Sounds great. Let's do that. Okay. So I got my first check, right?
Yeah.
So it was, again, I didn't get to fire my boss or anything like that.
Yeah, but
It,
250 makes a difference. I mean, that could be, well, for sure, it pays your, podcasting.
it could be a car payment. It could be whatever
Yeah.
you want, right?
I'm curious to know, like, what that initial email or phone call sounded like out to the suspenders guys.
So it was a simple, we go back to the very beginning. I have a pizza guy now, right? That I'm doing this for a pizza. So with that additional knowledge of going through that transition, or not transition, but that process of like knocking on that door and getting all those no's, finally getting a yes, and it's worth a pizza. So
Mm-hmm.
using that, I go forward. But I've got a few more listeners now, that kind of thing. So those numbers adjusted. But I just threw out a number. What's a good number? And it was just, so it was simply just, hey, my name's Randy. I run the Geek Missile podcast. We're looking for sponsors. Um, I love your website. I love what you guys do, and I wish more people wore suspenders.
Yeah.
They're classic, they're cool, and da da da. Would you be interested in sponsoring our podcast? And it was just, I don't remember the exact wording, but it was very similar to that. It's like, what a unique topic, what a unique clothing item. Because when was the last time you ever
Yeah.
wore suspenders or saw anybody wearing them?
Yeah.
And most people will tell you, my grandfather wore them, right?
I think
So,
I wore them as a kid.
right. I
Yeah.
mean, but you're familiar with them, and
They make you
if you put
smile.
them on, they do make you smile. And but I don't know. So I did that. That it's just starting that initial
Hmm.
conversation. People will tell you if you if you didn't word it right, they won't answer you back.
Yeah.
They'll tell you, well, before you ask me for 250, what is your podcast? Oh yeah, maybe I should be a little bit more descriptive, and
Yeah.
talk about myself, and so it's just corresponding. Like I said, it's a conversation. So
Hmm.
all you're doing is initiating that conversation and just kind of having the confidence in your podcast. Hey, this is who we are. Not, well, we're kind of a geeky thing and we do this. Just be confident. Yeah,
Yeah.
we talk about geeky stuff and it's great. We
Hmm.
talk movies, Dungeons and Dragons. We do all kinds of stuff. And here's a link to our website, or to our podcast. Take a
Hmm.
listen to it. Tell me what you think. We definitely want to work with sponsors that represent us and that we can represent as well.
Hmm.
A good mesh is what you're looking for.
Yeah.
And so, it's just initiating that conversation. That's all it really is.
Yeah.
And just be okay if they say no. Okay, cool. I got one more no. I'm one step closer to a yes,
Hmm.
and um, again, it's about promoting your podcast. You never know where a business owner might come up, or a marketing director might
Yeah.
stumble across it and just go, you know what, that sounds good. Let me reach out to these guys and see. And
Hmm.
and they're starting the conversation, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Hey, I saw you post about this, and I'd love to talk to you about it. Tell me more,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, that's so cool, and I hope what people understand from our conversation is that you can start wherever you're at. You can start getting some sort of payment for your podcast, whether it be in pizza, whether it be $250. Like if you're a podcaster, the chances of you being an influence in at least some of your circle of network is very high. Just because you're behind a mic and you're talking, you have that confidence in you, and businesses look to that, especially local businesses like the pizza guy. I'm guessing what was going through his mind was, okay, Randy, like he says he has 10 listens on his podcast. 2 of them are from the area. Like, okay, I'm probably not going to make my money back from, my, $3 or $4 pizza that I spend on this to give him from people who listen to the podcast. But I know Randy is going to talk about me now because I sponsor his podcast. And I know he has a circle of friends that he's probably going to tell about my pizza. And shoot, he might even buy another one, throughout the week, And so like businesses do things like that if you find the right one, and just being unique about it. And I love the way that you talked about the pizza while you ate it, and then that led into your confidence of having a sponsor, getting another one, and then who knows, a few years down the road, you might build up a larger base, and now you have that experience to ask for more sponsorships.
Right. I mean, you're exactly right. It comes down to, when you're going to get a sponsor, it's the, what do they call that? It's just the average of numbers, right?
Mm-hmm.
I got to knock on 100 doors and before I can get my 5 yeses. I got to get 80 no's, and then I get my 20, well, come on in. And out of that, come on in, I get my 5 yeses.
Yeah.
And so it's just that law of averages. You just, um, don't be afraid to hear no. and at the same time, don't beg for it. It's
Yeah.
just kind of a, hey, look, this is who we are. This is what we have to offer. It's fun. It's great. It's engaging. It's not a
Hmm.
negative experience. It's positive, and we're looking for sponsors. You know,
Yeah.
and and it's just as simple as that. This is who our podcast is. We talk about these topics. We think your product would work well if we did an ad or maybe two in a 45-minute segment.
Hmm.
What questions do you have for me? Not, does that sound good? It's just,
Yeah.
what questions do you have for me? Because I've told you everything I can think of. Now you
Hmm.
ask me questions, and they're like, get their brain thinking, get the juices flowing, and then they'll say, yeah. So you said your podcast is about this.
Hmm.
What is that? I don't know. And then they
For
might ask
sure.
you questions. Get them involved. Sell them in the idea.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
I love the what questions do you have for me? Because then that gives starts the conversation rather than does that sound good? Then it's a yes or no
right.
and stuff. But we are out of time here, so we got to wrap it up. But it's certainly been a great conversation, Randy. If somebody's listening and they're like, I need to know more about Randy's podcast and what he's up to, you can go to your whatever podcast app you listen to and type in
Yep.
Geek Missile. Also, you're on YouTube. Your channel is called Geek Missile as well, right?
Yep. Yep.
Awesome.
That's it.
Anywhere else people can find you, or one last note that you want to leave on?
I just did it the cheap way. I went with Anchor. So anchor.fm/geek missile. That'll take you all to all of them. I'm pretty sure that they're everywhere, but I've been focusing on other things, so I don't know if they would happen. But we're coming back, so I'll be digging into
Yeah.
that shortly.
Awesome. Well, it was great to have you, Randy. Thanks for being here.
Hey, thank you, Jase. Take care.